So today we're going to do a short review on a video from a channel named, I think it's Adia Psychology, might be Adia. Now she's going to say something here, gentlemen. I want you to hold on to your butts. All right? She's going to say a couple of things here, one of which might make you audibly yell, "What?" But trust the brother. Listen to what she has to say. I'm going to explain to y'all how she actually has this 100% correct.
So with my line of work, a lot of my clients are men, and I would find that majority of men tend to have the same problem. They are all tending to have a woman that's disrespectful, a woman that may be unfaithful, or a woman that may be using them financially. Now, if this seems to be the problem you're facing, and if this seems to be a reoccurring theme with all the women that you date, they seem to be, you always find yourself getting cheated on, you always find yourself getting used, you always find yourself getting disrespected. I'm going to give you the reasons why this is happening to you and then how to prevent this from reoccurring. So stay tuned. Now, the reality is a lot of men will say, she lied to me in the beginning, she was so good, she lied to me, she lied to me, she lied to me. Women never, ever, ever lie. Never do they lie. They might not say the truth, but they always show you the truth. Every woman that you've been with that has hurt you, used you, cheated on you, stolen from you, whatever it is, she showed you her red flags from day one. You chose to ignore them. You chose to ignore them. This is what women will do. They meet a man and they'll basically show their red flags in not so clear ways. So they might show it simply by how she dresses. And she might show you that she might be provocative. Or she might show you with her sexual behavior. She might be very sexually liberal. She might show you in terms of how she talks about her exes. She might say that, oh, this guy was so toxic, this guy was so this, that, I'm still in love with this guy, whatever it is. She shows you some of her traits.
All right, so I know. Women will never lie, but then she follows it up with, they just might not tell you the entire truth. Now, without getting into the specifics of everything that she's laying out is 100% accurate. Most men will do the same thing at the beginning of a relationship. They will try to determine the red flags that they see and decide whether or not they think that those are not just things that they can handle, but more importantly, whether or not those are things that they think will change over time, or that the man themselves, through showing appropriate behavior, can get the woman to change. Now, it's generally thought that women are the only ones in relationships where they think, I can change a man. Men do the same thing, we just do it in a different way. Women might think that they can change the man through sexual manipulation and through a risk-reward sort of atmosphere, where men, we have a tendency to feel where if we just keep our boundaries and keep our frame, that a woman will fall into it. And that's not necessarily the case. Now, in the beginning of a relationship, two things are going to happen. Number one, if as a man you've been in a previous relationship, you might be looking very closely at your new perspective with an eye towards making sure they don't have the same issues or the same inconsistencies that your previous relationship had, which is not entirely a bad idea. However, if you're looking so closely for the things that you're looking for, you might miss other things that you're not looking for until it's too late. Now, the second thing that can happen is we get to feeling, well, we can tolerate this, we can tolerate that, but we will always be tested. I'm 53 years old. I've had basically 2 long-term relationships. At the beginning of both, I was presented with a choice to deal with this specific aspect of their personality or not to deal with it. Both times I chose to deal with it, and both times that exact issue is what significantly led to the end of the relationship. You can't make this stuff up. So it doesn't matter what the specifics are, in the sense that we all present, not just women, and men do it too. We all present with, this is the good parts and these are the things that maybe aren't so good. The question is going to be, what is their attitude about the things that you may feel are red flags? Now, in my case, both times, the women basically felt like their attitude around certain subjects was not a problem, that there was nothing wrong, that the problem was on my end. But then eventually, that led me down the road of trying to internalize some of the issues before I finally realized that no, this isn't my problem, this is their misbehavior. Now, the other thing that she talks about here is women will not lie, but they won't show you the truth. And that's something that I have found to be very common as well. A lot of women, they will view independence as dishonesty, but they will then view dishonesty not to mean, they will only feel like they're being dishonest if what they're telling you is not the truth. They feel that many times that omission and leaving things out, well, as long as I'm not telling them something that's not true, even though I'm leaving something important out, I'm still not lying. It's a little mind game, little word game that some women like to play. Don't fall for that one either. If you are getting resistance from your new person in terms of asking specific questions and there's a lot that they want to leave out, understand that at the beginning of a relationship, nobody's going to disclose everything. But there should be enough signs there for you to begin to make a determination of whether or not this is a person that's really going to be honest with you and whether or not there's somebody that's going to be hiding a lot of things, which will always come back to bite you in the ass later. So as men, how do we figure out in reality, in real time, how do we figure out what we can and cannot handle? Because when we're in that new part of the relationship and we've just met them and maybe the chemistry is intense, or maybe we're just convinced that this person is completely different than the last person, the only way, guys, is to actually have those internal conversations with yourself. Allow her to present herself as she wants to present. Don't try to force her to overshare. Don't overshare yourself. Just let her be her normal, natural self, because when you allow for that, she will show you who she is 100% of the time. So at the end of the relationship, you can bitch and complain all you want about all the things that she did, but I guarantee you, if you rewind the tape, she showed you that those are the things that she was going to do long ago, right at the start. So as she starts to show you herself, have the real conversations with yourself. How much does this matter to you? How much does this matter to you? Are you able to accept these parts of her? Are you not? As soon as you start thinking, well, maybe that can change, stop. If you're in that new phase of a relationship and you're going over her behaviors and her boundaries and the things that she's presenting to you, as soon as you start thinking, well, maybe that'll change over time. Well, maybe she'll overcome that fear if I'm good enough. Stop. Stop. Because I guarantee you, whatever story she has about her most recent relationship, she's fixing to tell that same story about you a year or 5 years down the road. And that's the last thing. When you meet somebody, they usually will divulge 60 to 75% of the reality of their previous relationships. There's always those pieces that everybody's going to leave out, at least in the beginning. Don't think, I've said this before, man, it is the biggest trap, okay? If she has 5 stories about 5 different bad relationships and they all sort of ended the same chaotic way, do not assume that because you're going to be on your best behavior that you won't be story number 6. I guarantee you will. It's inevitable. If you are going to allow her to present the same type of behavior that she presented in her previous relationships under the assumption that everything she did was right and it was all the man's fault, eventually it's going to be all the man's fault again, only you will be the man. Bottom line is what she says about women not lying. In their mind, many times, they're not lying. They're just leaving out all the important details so that you won't get the right or the wrong idea about them. And it's just a little way that they use word games to help manipulate you into making decisions that maybe later you might regret.